I have some good news and some bad news. First, the bad news. If you get sick and you need medicine, you're going to be paying a lot more for it. And now, the good news. If you own shares in the big name domestic pharmaceutical companies, you're going to be making a lot of money because starting in 2028, that is, if we make it to 2028, the prices of those affordable generic drugs imported into the U.S. are going to double. Yep, that's right. They're going to double after Trump announced his plan to raise tariffs on those drugs by 100%. He made this announcement on his Truth Social post recently, adding that after 2028, he'll raise the tariff again by 100%, or altogether 200% by 2029. He said that he's doing this to reshore generic pharmaceutical production back to the United States. He said that the objective of this policy of his is to protect the people of the United States. But my question is this: what's stopping those same U.S. companies that he wants to have a monopoly on our drug needs from providing affordable medicine to Americans right now? And considering the cuts in nutrition, in SNAP, and healthcare subsidies under his big, beautiful bill last year that gave the wealthiest 10% the biggest tax break and upward transfer of wealth in U.S. history, him saying that he's raising the cost of medicine, of our medicine, by 200% in 2 years, in order to protect the people of the United States of America, should be taken not with a spoon but a whole box of salt. According to this article in Time magazine, which I will link in the description of this video, India supplies roughly half of the generic drugs in the United States, according to a 2025 report from the Senate Committee on Aging. Now, the report additionally found that about 80% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients used by Indian manufacturers that we get our drugs from are supplied by China. China also supplies many commonly used generic drugs. A 2023 report from a lobbying organization called the Coalition for a Prosperous America found that China accounts for about 95% of imports of ibuprofen and 70% of imports of acetaminophen. Another question: why now? When did all these generic drugs we've been importing from China and all these other countries, all these years, suddenly become dangerous? Do you believe this? If you do, I have some prime real estate in Dubai I'd like to sell you after this video. But it's not just pharmaceuticals that's going up. Trump also said last week that he's raising tariffs on dozens of countries that permit forced child labor. Through his trade representative Jameson Greer, Trump said that the reason he's raising tariffs on 60 countries is because of their failure to enforce the United States prohibition on importing goods produced with forced labor. Now, the tariffs that Trump will impose on these countries will range between 10 and 12%, which basically means that we are going to be paying even more, as if these high gas prices that we're already paying because of this war with Iran that he started back in February, and that's costing us $1 billion a day, is not bad enough. Now, because everybody should know by now that when he says tariff, what he really means are taxes. Those are sales taxes, because the exporting country does not pay the tariff or the duty. The importing country pays, and then they pass their costs to the consumers. That means you and me. Now, I want to take a close look at something else. He said that he's raising tariffs on companies on the pretext that they use child labor. So you have an anti-labor, anti-union president saying that he wants to protect children. He wants to protect people from being used as forced labor, right? At the same time, we are experiencing a rise in child labor violations right here in the United States of America. For example, Michigan has a bill in committee that would extend work hours for minors under 16, in addition to removing protections from night work and work in hazardous occupations. West Virginia removed prohibitions on specific forms of hazardous child labor. Now, that state also removed guardrails on hazardous work for minors enrolled in state youth apprenticeship programs. The state also lowered the age to sell alcohol to adults in bars. An underage child can sell alcohol in a bar in West Virginia. Now, in New Jersey, they introduced a bill which would extend hours for 14 to 15-year-olds to 11 p.m. between Memorial Day and October. In Iowa, now this bill failed, but it would have allowed child care centers to assign 15-year-olds to unsupervised work as child care providers under certain conditions. Now, I won't go through the entire list, but altogether this year, 13 states have introduced bills that weaken child labor protections. Now, it's also no coincidence that rolling back child labor protections was clearly articulated in Project 2025. Now, that was the blueprint by conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, that Donald Trump repeatedly denied knowing anything about while he was campaigning for his second term. And yet, 70% of his cabinet members have links to that particular think tank. And one more thing, states that are weakening child labor protections in the United States of America are evenly divided among party lines. In fact, out of the 13 states seeking to weaken child labor protection, 6 voted Republican in 2024, while 7 voted Democrat in that same year. But like I said, even in the middle of a war that's costing $1 billion a day, costing us $1 billion a day, adding to an already unpayable near $40 trillion deficit, and rising energy prices, where the power of the dollar, the spending power of that dollar, has dropped 10% since Trump took office. In just his first 6 months in office, he is now again raising taxes. Remember, tariffs are taxes. He's raising taxes on the American people because that's exactly what tariffs are. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.